And welcome back to another edition of the Five Star Podcast of Wrestling. I am host Sean Meyers, joined by co-host Justin Lowery. Justin, we are officially beginning year number 2 on the podcast, and it is a big episode. It is the WrestleMania prediction and preview show. And this is really, if you're a WWE fan, the time of year that you live for. We're now just a handful of days away from the biggest weekend of the year, the biggest event of the year. And WWE really has turned this into like a week-long event. NXT on Friday, we'll hopefully discuss that very briefly. Hall of Fame, which I think is pretty underwhelming this year, on Saturday. Culminating with WrestleMania on Sunday. And now the big thing is the 2 nights that follow are supposed to be big shows, as they stay in the same city as well. You've sort of said throughout the year, though, it just doesn't feel the same. Now that we're about as close as you can get, do you get that itch at all for WrestleMania, or is it kind of like,
I have the itch for the takeover. That's about it. WrestleMania to me is a 2-match show with another 15 matches or so of just blah.
So, usually we spend a decent amount of time talking Raw and SmackDown, the go-home shows leading up to every pay-per-view before we get into it. We're going to spend much less time here today because, one, WrestleMania really, it shouldn't even come down to the final show. While it's still important to have, some significant developments, I guess, or finishing touches more so, these storylines should have been in place for months. Many of them haven't been, and that's a long-term booking problem. But when I look at Raw this week, there was 2 or 3 things that were really good, but overall, I thought it was one of the most disappointing ways to end a go-home show you could possibly ever have. Rousey, Becky, Charlotte, I thought that was really fun. It was ridiculous, but I thought that's what you want to see for a go-home show. That needed to close it out. The fact that it was Rey Mysterio and Baron Corbin, if you would have told someone 3 months ago that was the Raw main event before WrestleMania, I would have not ever believed that. It epitomizes how this company has booked Raw for the past year.
Well, how about this? I'm going to surprise you and be like, I understand it. If you look at the ratings for Raw, the 3rd hour is pretty abysmal. I think this week they dropped almost 500,000 people.
And you're saying trend-wise, not just this week.
Right. Oh, yeah. But this week, in general, they dropped almost 500,000. It was 400,000 and some. It was a big difference from the 9 o'clock hour to 10 o'clock hour. So, in their perspective, I get why they put the Ronda, Becky, Charlotte segment, started about 10 to 10, finished a little after 10. I get it. That was their main event. Even though there's still an hour left of the show, I think they're realizing there's a lot of people not watching the 10 o'clock hour, so why put that in the 10 o'clock hour? And
I get that part of it.
And it was completely ridiculous, as you said, but I actually found it enjoyable. That if you were a fan of the Attitude Era, then you had to like that because that was very reminiscent of something you would have saw back then. I laughed at it just how absurd it was.
I think that was the reaction they were sort of going for, right?
For one, the cop cars don't have cages in the back. They're beating up cops. That would be a felony. They're not getting tased. They're released the next day.
The camera work was really good too on Ronda and Becky.
And then Charlotte had that nasty looking knee to Ronda when her head was sticking out of the car.
No-sold it.
Ronda completely no-sold it, screaming out the window. I mean, it was so absurd that it was funny. I enjoyed it. If you didn't really enjoy it, then I think you're just being a little grouchy. And I have tons of complaints about their product, but I thought that was entertaining. And then nothing with Corbin's entertaining.
Well, that's the crazy thing is I understand if you think that's the biggest segment and you want to put it at 10 o'clock where the most eyes are on it, I get that. But you have to do more than Rey Mysterio and Baron Corbin. It didn't even make sense. Rey Mysterio was supposed to wrestle Kurt Angle. And as I said to you last week, I think that there's real concerns about Kurt Angle not even making it to WrestleMania had he had a real match with AJ, had he wrestled Rey Mysterio.
Well, yeah, what I read is he's actually really banged up. That's why they canceled that match. And now from the reports, Rey Mysterio got hurt in that match with Corbin, and now him in the U.S. title match with Joe is up in the air. They don't even know if he's going to be able to go for that. That's why he was kept off of SmackDown, and now it's a question mark if he can even wrestle at WrestleMania. I mean, I guess time will tell. I went to bed after the Charlotte Becky segment.
That's a good decision.
I went to bed. And I think a lot of people, clearly I'm not the only one because a lot of people, switched channels.
The Angle video tribute I thought was really cool too. I was a little surprised they did that before the match. Typically, that's something you would see maybe the following night on Raw. But that I thought was legitimate. It just makes it more disappointing that his last match is against Corbin. But that was a nice moment. Other than that, I thought Raw was just pretty bad.
Oh yeah, well even I don't know. Did you see Big E's tweet?
Yes, mouthwash, so on and so forth.
He basically called it. I mean, that was pretty bad. It was bad. It was blah. But to me, the whole build-up to this show has been blah. To me, WWE, for the most part, the last 6 months, maybe even longer, has been blah.
SmackDown, I thought, was a little different. Now, I will say, Becky coming out and cutting a promo, it just felt unnecessary. I thought the way that feud culminated on Monday, that was good enough. You don't need to, spend more time on it and have her cut a pretty, bland promo. But I thought the end of SmackDown, that felt like it was the go home segment before WrestleMania with Kofi and Daniel Bryan. And Kofi, who's been pretty quiet during this whole feud. Honestly, it's been mostly Big E and Xavier doing a lot of the mic work. Kofi hasn't said a lot. I thought that was perfect how that went down.
Oh yeah, that's what you would normally think a go home show would be. You're building to their SmackDown's main match. That was the lead out. And to your point of Kofi not talking as much, out of the three, he's probably the worst promo. I'm not saying he's a bad promo, but out of those three, he's probably the worst one. So maybe they were just kind of using the other two to prop him up. Plus,
that's how it should always be, right? Instead of forcing Nakamura and Asuka and Bobby Lashley to cut promos every week.
Right. Plus, I think I see a little foreshadowing. It has to be at some point they're going to turn on him, and that's they have him talking, and I think it's also leading to something in the near future.
So would you agree with this? Raw failed to build more interest to WrestleMania. SmackDown did at least a good enough job to carry interest into Sunday.
Yes. Yeah, except for that mixed gender 18 person match. That was absurd, but in the bad way, not absurd in the good way.
Yes, I would agree with it. By the way, I mentioned this to you when it was happening. Orton and AJ, and we'll talk about that match, but the work that they've done, that's a perfect, it's not a main event, but that's a perfect way to book that when you have two talented guys. You don't need to do too much, right? Let them do what they're capable of.
I wish they would have booked the women's match and the Daniel Bryan Kofi more straightforward like that. Nothing really needs to be done. Let two guys, they're pros, go out there, cut up promos back and forth at each other, and it's good enough. That's all you need. Yeah,
there wasn't any, exotic stipulations. There wasn't, they didn't have 10 matches leading up to it, so on and so forth. All right, Justin. So it's now the biggest predictions of the year, and I think you've won the last 2, maybe 3 times. So you're on a little bit of a heater. We both have struggled on a few shows, and I remember when Sean Saputo and I did our predictions last year. We were so bad predicting WrestleMania because I feel like the entire show was basically a swerve. Do you remember that? I mean, I know a year ago is foggy now. Brock Lesnar defeating Roman Reigns, no one expected that. A lot of people thought Nakamura would knock off AJ. Jinder Mahal won the U.S. title. I mean, there were so many things that just felt like swerves.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be the same this year. You and I, as we'll get to, I think we're pretty similar. It looks like there's a lot of pretty clear winners. Do you think that they will go with the right decisions, or do you think they'll try to keep us on our toes again?
Maybe a little bit of both. I mean, nothing will surprise me, especially with their booking anymore. I mean, we'll get into our picks, and I'll explain that maybe some picks I'm like, I'm solid on. Some I'm like, I could go either way. You would think some of the storyline build-up, it's obvious, but sometimes, Vince and company likes to screw the fans, like how you think but you don't know type of deal.
So let's jump into what has already been determined as the main event. I think it's probably fitting as the main event. It's the women's triple threat, and we found out on Monday it's now winner take all. And the way that they worded that's kind of interesting. It's not the converging, the unifying of the titles per se. There will still be 2 separate titles. The winner of this match will have both of them. it makes it interesting because what are they going to do afterwards? They're going to have one woman hold both brands titles. They're going to have to do something stupid to sort that out. But nonetheless, in theory, I guess, in their minds, it puts even more on the line. Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. Ronda, the Raw champion. Charlotte, the SmackDown champion. Becky, at this point, has no titles. I think that this one is really down to two people. I see it as Becky Lynch is the clear frontrunner and favorite. But I think if you go back to a year ago, you don't write off Ronda Rousey just yet. Brock Lesnar, against all odds, retained the title last year. Rumors are that Ronda is going to be taking some time off. We don't know if that's 100% or not. But I think that there's a chance that they will have her keep it. She's still undefeated at this point. Technically, even if Charlotte loses, they could, make the argument, but she would have, a loss on her record. But I'm still going with Becky Lynch, despite that fact. But to your point, Justin, I'm not 100% on this. I would say maybe about 85%, but I think they need to send it off the right way, and there will be a bad reaction if Ronda Rousey retains.
Yeah, I'm thinking Becky. I think it's 80% Becky wins. I think the only way Becky doesn't win, if Ronda is sticking around a little longer, then I could see Ronda winning. And then I think Becky then eventually beats Ronda in a singles match, a couple months down the line when she is ready to step away. But the way the storylines build up, quite honestly, if Becky doesn't win, like you said, it's going to be a very ticked-off crowd.
I don't think I could take a couple more months of this.
No, well, neither. That would be. I was going to say, they've almost ruined this main event to begin with.
People just want it to happen and be done with, and then everyone...
In fact, if they don't get the right outcome, then you pretty much just screwed the pooch on everything. At least last year when Brock Lesnar won and people thought Roman was going to win, a lot of people didn't want Roman to win.
Right. But they didn't want Brock. They wanted someone different entirely.
But most people, I would say, are behind Becky Lynch here. So.
Oh, yeah. I would say, the vast majority. No one's cheering for Ronda, and very few people are cheering for Charlotte because Charlotte's already done it all.
Right, so if you don't get the right outcome, again, it's been months of build-up for naught. You already kind of screwed up the whole way to get there. If you can't even finish it right, then there really is no hope. But I'm hoping Becky, takes the W here.
Is this going to be main event worthy in the ring when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I believe that these three, they know, not only are they main eventing, but it's the first time ever for women.
And I think there's a lot of pressure. If it's not a great match...
Oh, there's definitely pressure because if they don't deliver, a lot of people are going to be like, well, this was completely undeserving. They just did it because they wanted to say it was the first time, blah, blah, blah. When Charlotte and Becky, what main evented...
Evolution was when they had the last woman standing.
I thought that, it was pretty well done. I believe all three girls are going to go out there and give 100%. Charlotte's going to do some crazy moonsault off the top rope.
That is true.
These girls are going to go out there. I expect them to give an A-plus effort, and I think it will deliver. If it doesn't, I will be surprised. I would be.
And by the way, Ronda Rousey has usually delivered in her big matches. Just go back to her debut a year ago. So the track record certainly is there for this one to be stellar. The match that has probably been the hottest one over the past month or so, Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston for the SmackDown title. This is really what the fans wanted all along when they complain about WWE forcing guys down our throat, not listening to the fans, not riding the hot hand. Well, Vince McMahon and crew, whether they wanted to do it or not, they've made the decision to go with the hot hand and Kofi Kingston. This wasn't the plan. No one, in their right mind thinks that Kofi Kingston was supposed to be in this role a couple months ago. He is. The fans are behind him, just like they were behind Daniel Bryan, 5 years ago. There's a lot of irony in this storyline, a lot of parallels. I'm really enjoying it. A little overbooked, but I'm able to get past that. I think Kofi Kingston caps it off, and he becomes champion. Now, does it last long? Who knows? But I think he deserves that moment. And by the way, if I'm correct, he'll become, what's it called, like the Grand Slam, whatever they have now. He will have won all the titles because this is the one that he had been missing. That would be a nice little touch as well. I don't think they've mentioned that, but I'm sure they will on Sunday. Kofi Kingston's my pick. I feel fairly confident, although, as you mentioned, Justin, I think he might have his parade rained upon fairly shortly thereafter.
Yes, yeah. And just I want to touch upon, you said Grand Slam champion, which I agree with you. But now since the Universal Championship's in play,
It's a yeah. The term is so weird.
They don't consider that. As long as you've won a world title, you're considered Grand Slam. Even though like there's another, it's just something that bugs me. But anyway, I'm going with Kofi. Now, I think there's more of a chance Bryan comes out victorious than Ronda. We talked about the women's match because this match isn't going to be on last. So if Vince and company are going to piss off the crowd, it's going to be here because I expect this to be in the middle of the card. My guess is they view this as maybe the fourth or fifth most important match on the card. In Vince's eyes, I bet you, even though it's his title, it would really suck. See, I think the crowd would be more upset if Kofi loses than I think they would if Becky would lose.
Yeah, I would kind of agree. Now, if they were to theoretically do the New Day turn right there, then it shifts the attention.
That would give major heat to Big E and Xavier, yes, but at the same time, I'm going with Kofi, but I honestly think it's 65-35. Kofi wins. It's almost 50-50 to me. But I'm going to go Kofi for the feel-good moment. I hope he does win. I think he deserves it. I don't think his reign's going to be forever long.
Right.
But hell, I could see him lose it on Tuesday. But he at least gets that moment. And
you said it last week. You think that this could be maybe the best match.
I think this will be. Wrestling-wise, or I think the women will deliver in another way. I think this has the ability to be the most engaging match. The crowd's going to be on pins and needles. You
hope it's not after 6.5 hours and that they're.
And that's what's going to affect the women's main event too. 6.5 hours into it, the crowd's going to be pretty damn tired.
Right.
If this match is in the middle of the card, 3.5, maybe even 4 hours in, you're going to have a lot more emotion.
Right.
Sitting on the edge of your seat for every near fall.
So that's one world title. Another world title will be defended. That is by Brock Lesnar. Yes, he will be making his triumphant return to the ring as he faces challenger Seth Rollins. This feels a lot like last year in that everyone's just hoping, man, someone needs to take the title off of Brock Lesnar. The difference between last year and this year, however, is that the fans really want Seth Rollins to win this. And you mentioned the point, Justin. Well, they didn't really want Roman to win. They just wanted Brock not to be champion so that they could actually have a title on Raw every week. Rollins is the guy that the fans want on Raw. He's the right choice. He's my choice to win this one. And I feel pretty confident. I would say this is about as close to a slam dunk as there is because they cannot continue this awful Brock Lesnar reign any longer. It's proven to be a failure.
Well, not in Vince's eyes. So maybe.
When he sees the numbers, it has the numbers show that it is.
But he doesn't care. I don't think he puts that on Brock. It makes no sense. The numbers have slipped since he's been a champion, since Roman's been champion. Honestly, ever since Cena started to drift away, the numbers have really slipped. For my personal view, I told you this. I care about two matches on the card. We've already discussed them. This match, I know it's supposed to be big. I don't have a feeling one way or the other. I don't care for it. It's just there to me.
And you like Rollins, right?
Yeah, I think the build's been lackluster. Lesnar's never there.
Don't you desperately want to see anyone other than Brock have this title?
Yeah, and I guess I'm picking Rollins. But, I'm not yes, I want Rollins to hold it. It's not like I'm desperately wanting Rollins to win.
I get that.
I just don't want Brock to hold it anymore.
Right. I would be behind pretty much anyone. You could have said Drew McIntyre, and I would have been, yes, I need Drew McIntyre to win this so that I don't have to worry about Brock.
You need Apollo Crews right now, or Titus. Give me Titus as a champion over Brock Lesnar.
You never know. They could always change the card to Titus versus Brock Lesnar.
They could, and my worry is, though, Rollins got the upper hand on Lesnar on Raw.
Right, and that's more times than not, whoever gets the upper hand.
Status quo booking of wrestling, then that's a bad sign. I don't know. No one knows what Brock Lesnar's doing. If he's going back to UFC, if he's staying this or that, I really don't care. I don't care what Brock Lesnar's doing. Brock Lesnar to me is no longer an attraction.
Right.
I don't care. nobody cares. Okay, Raw sucks, the ratings suck, the Universal title sucks because it's not represented well. It's meaningless.
And they had a chance to fix it when Roman won it, and unfortunately they couldn't control that. But they made the worst possible decision by putting it right back on Brock.
Right, and here we are. But I'm going with Rollins. Hopefully the Brock Lesnar experiment is long over, but
if he sticks around, whatever. Just don't have a title on him at this point.
Right,
you know?
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So those are the biggest title matches. And if you go by WWE.com, which is, I got obviously all the graphics from there and everything, they listed those three as the top three. Number 4 on their list was Triple H and Batista. Now, you could argue, is that really the 4th biggest match? I don't know. Batista's a huge name. Triple H is, one of the best of all time. So it's 2 legends. Seems a little, little lacking in terms of why we're to care. They threw in a stipulation recently if Triple H loses, he's done as an in-ring competitor. So with that, Justin, what's your choice for the game against the Animal?
This is, I know this is one where we differ. I'm going with Triple H, and I really don't have a solid reason. This is one of those I'm like, again, I feel that this match is just there because it's WrestleMania. We need to get some star names on the card. Of course, Triple H always got to come back. And Batista, well, we can get Batista because we don't have Taker or Cena. So, yeah, we'll go Batista. He's going to be in the Avengers coming up here at the end of the month. This is great. It just seems like Batista came back. The whole reason why he came back, it just seems a little nonsensical to me.
The company's usually good for that.
Yeah, Triple H can't be 100%. He tore his pec in November?
Yeah, I think it was the first week in November.
By all accounts, it's probably on the early side for him to come back. That's probably the no holds barred. It's going to protect, that aspect a little bit. I'm only going Triple H because his career is on the line, and I don't think anybody actually thinks this is going to be Triple H's last match.
Right. I don't, but I'm still picking Batista.
If there's a chance Batista is sticking around for another match or two that we don't know about, I could easily see Triple H winning, so then it continues the feud. But then again, same point, I was like, why would Batista come back just to lose? But I don't really think he cares.
Well, so here, I think that Triple H, let's be honest, he and Batista are probably very good friends, or at least they were in real life. Keep in mind, Batista was supposed to basically win everything when he came back at WrestleMania 30. He won the Royal Rumble. The fans revolted. His one-on-one match at WrestleMania, in which he was supposed to win the title, I think, never materialized. He ended up losing to Daniel Bryan. Then he, lost as part of, the Triple H and Randy Orton against the Shield. So basically, his comeback was just all losses, disappointment. People were booing him out of the building. He's coming back as a heel, so they've kind of taken care of that aspect. But I think they probably said, you know what, we sort of screwed up last time. We screwed you over to an extent. We'll let you win this one. Here's our way of making it up to you. Sorry that it didn't work last time. Plus, the first 3 matches we predicted, Justin, we've had the face winning all of those matches. There's got to be some heels winning. This is one where it doesn't hurt Triple H in a sense. I mean, technically it should end his career, but it doesn't hurt him to lose this one. It's not going to affect his legacy. Have the heel win. Batista, he's been entertaining, at least, with his give me what I want, spitting everywhere, and then his promo on Raw. I would be fine with Batista wrestling on a part-time basis, as long as he's not, being thrown in there against like a Seth Rollins for the title or something. I'm going with Batista, but to your point, I'm not sure that it really matters who wins this one.
No, and actually, I'm not totally sure Triple H, when the match starts and as it goes, is going to get the face reaction. And not that they're going to turn on Triple H. I get to see people cheering Batista just because they want to cheer Batista. As you said, he's very entertaining.
Have you enjoyed his stuff since he's come back?
Oh, the Monday night's promo is the best promo we've seen a Raw in a while. And I'm being serious.
It was good. It was really good.
You don't need to go out there and talk for 10 minutes, and go in certain circles. But honestly, I kind of think Triple H will, Batista will win, but I'm still going to go Triple H just because.
I'm always going to remember Batista's "Give Me What I Want" promo. I think that was in Pittsburgh. I believe I was there for it. I don't even remember, but he was just spitting everywhere. Give me what I want. Give me what I want.
If this is the only match, I hope he shows up on Raw and quits again.
in a wheelchair with a pink, all the.
Just give it to me.
That should be fun, I suppose. Miz and Shane McMahon, this is a feud that I feel like they had long-term booking. They knew what they wanted to do, and it worked out perfect. So the Miz and Shane, it's not going to probably be an in-ring classic. They've already taken precautions there. It's I think falls count anywhere, whatever. It's one of those stipulations. You know, Shane's older. Miz is a very good in-ring guy, but he's not necessarily amongst the best. So I think this is going to be a fight. It's going to be a brawl. Should be a fun match. I think the Miz has to win this one because there's no reason for Shane to win this. Miz is going to be the guy who's going to be there each and every week wrestling. He needs to get some momentum, and I think he could be a guy that maybe challenges for a world title before 2019 ends.
I think Miz is gonna win, and I thought the Miz would have challenged for the world title in the last year or two. I think he's due for another run with it. But the only question that people should have in this match is, what is Shane McMahon going to jump off of? That's pretty much the question of the match.
And the rumor was that he was probably going to be done doing that stuff about a year ago, but I don't think that's the case. He seems like he's as reckless as ever.
He's still doing it. He's always crazy. He does something crazy, especially at WrestleMania. He's going to, especially with no holds barred. Is he going to be like outside the ring? Is he going to jump off a section of the stadium, the flooring onto the Miz through a table? There's going to be something.
Will we see Miz's dad get involved?
Yes, Miz's dad's going to be there. If they've been talking way too much, throughout the feud for him not. He'll be at ringside. He'll be there, and I expect him to get some, redemption. He's going to hit Shane, or there's going to be something with the Miz's dad, and the Miz and his dad will celebrate after the match.
So we're both going with the Miz.
Yeah.
The big dog is back. It's probably not as big of a comeback as what we would have thought when we heard that he was, taking time away to battle cancer. But he's back. That's a good sign, obviously. Way earlier than you and I expected. Did not think we'd be seeing him wrestling one-on-one at Mania. He's going against Drew McIntyre. They've really put a lot of time into building up Drew McIntyre. And I think that this profiles as a pretty big match. It just doesn't feel as big as some of the ones that we've already alluded to. I think this is sort of should be a pretty straightforward outcome. Justin, you said it before. A returning guy from a situation like this, he pretty much has to win, right?
Oh, he's going to win for two reasons. One, because he's Roman Reigns. And two, no matter who you are, if you're returning from what he has gone through, you're gonna go over. You're not going to lose. So Roman, basically a lock. And the match will probably be around 8 to 10 minutes because I don't see his cardio being able to go longer than that.
And I think that you hope and pray that the fans treat this one as a straight up face versus heel.
I think they will.
McIntyre's a good heel.
Yeah,
he's not like a cool heel that people want to cheer.
Right. Roman will be okay for at least the next couple months until they put him back in the title scene, and then maybe the crowd might turn a little bit again. Yeah,
we're both going Roman Reigns at WrestleMania over Drew McIntyre. I mentioned before, I've really liked this storyline, Randy Orton and AJ Styles. And it's been simple. It's been a little under the radar. It's been two guys talking about their history, their journey. Randy Orton said, I'm just naturally better. I've been here all along. You had to work your way wrestling in front of 100 people. They brought up Ring of Honor. They brought up Dixie Carter and TNA. They brought up on Tuesday night Randy Orton's suspension for performance enhancing or drug tests or whatever you want to call it. There's been a lot of good back and forth. They've pretty much kept it to the mic or just little physical exchanges outside of a match. I like this. I really am looking forward to the match, and I think the fans appreciate both these guys, the careers that they've had. And they're still both, I would say, towards the end of their prime, but good enough that this one could be one of those under-the-radar matches that you look back and say, you know what, that match was pretty darn solid. It wasn't spectacular, but what they did in about 12 to 15 minutes was just really good, entertaining wrestling. As a result, I have a hard time picking this one. So going back to the same thing I said about Batista, Justin, I think you need some heels to win. Randy Orton could be a guy that ultimately challenges a face champion pretty soon. So I think Randy Orton gets the victory here. Even though AJ Styles has always been booked very well, I think Time for him maybe to go a little bit on the back burner. So I see Randy Orton getting a monster heel push that, potentially starts with a victory here.
I'm going with Randy Orton. I think he's going to win by some out of nowhere RKO. Styles is going to leap off the rope, do a flip, and get caught with an RKO. I do expect a pretty cool spot with an RKO. That's what I'm expecting from the match. Plus, Randy Orton wins, and I think we do see the feud continue for the next pay-per-view or so. I don't think this is a one-off match. I really don't like. I mean, looking forward to the match. You are. I'm like, whatever. Randy Orton's matches don't thrill me. I usually find his matches very boring. AJ Styles is the opposite of that for me. I'll be interested in seeing how their styles mesh because they're completely different wrestlers in the way they like to wrestle. But AJ will probably have one or two pretty nice spots. Randy will do, his thing, and in the end, win with an RKO.
And this feels like a really, really good, solid mid-card WrestleMania match. Again, just...
But you have two legit, names. They've kind of built a nice, solid backstory. Going back and forth, where you actually feel there's a dislike with one another. Kind of pulling, showing the fans behind the curtain, so to say, with some of the stuff they've said in the promos about Orton's drug suspensions and stuff. They've, Styles' time on the Indies, blah, 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 blah. So it's been an enjoyable little, subplot, B or C storyline on SmackDown, and, it should be a very solid mid-card match.
This is the last match that I want to really give kind of a back and forth on before we go into rapid fire with our picks. It's Kurt Angle against Baron Corbin. And to me, I still question, is this really going to be the match? And I thought a couple weeks ago there was no chance that this was going to be it for Kurt Angle. Maybe he would beat Corbin and would lead to something else, like another match with John Cena immediately afterwards. After watching Raw, I think they are going with just Corbin and Angle. That's unfortunate, but I think that maybe, if anything, the silver lining is Kurt Angle probably doesn't have to wrestle real long. He's going to win this match. He's going to go out on top, which is a rarity in professional wrestling. You hope that he's, serviceable, passable in this match, even though it's going to be tough to really look real good going against Baron Corbin. The fans are going to be so into it because they are so disgusted that it's Baron Corbin that they're going to boo the heck out of him and cheer for everything that Kurt Angle does.
I hope that they don't crap on the match, because it is Angle's last match. I hope the crowd just doesn't boo just because this is not what they want to see.
But I think they'll cheer every time Kurt Angle gets a punch in, or something like that.
I think you're right. I hope so. I hope that they don't turn on the match because they don't want to see that match. But I am a little worried for Angle. Corbin's not a stud in the ring per se. He's passable, but Angle I think is dangerous at this point to himself and others with his body. So, hopefully an Angle slam looks okay. He doesn't drop anybody, or he can get him up. I expect this match to be maybe 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a long one.
Right. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
So let's kind of go much quicker through these other matches, and there's still a lot of other title matches, but that's really, really secondary at this point. The IC title, Bobby Lashley against Finn Balor. The news coming out on Monday, not a surprise. Finn Balor's the Demon. I thought they actually would keep that for an unveiling at WrestleMania, but whatever. Maybe they thought that would sell someone on caring about this. Finn Balor's going to win. I don't understand why they didn't save him winning the title for now after he won it a couple weeks ago, but Finn Balor over Bobby Lashley.
Everything you just said. Finn's going to be the Demon, so that means he's going to win, and I have no idea why they gave him the belt just for him to drop it just so he can win it back at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's not long-term planning. U.S. title, you said maybe a little in question, Samoa Joe, the champion, against Rey Mysterio. If Mysterio were to go out, it would make a lot of sense for John Cena to step in, but I think they probably have Cena doing something else. So I'm going to assume that it will be Joe and Mysterio, and I'm picking Samoa Joe because, again, you need some heels to win. No reason to take the title off of Joe after he won it just a couple weeks ago. And Mysterio's been very good in his comeback, but he seems like a guy who doesn't really need a title. Joe desperately needs a title after taking so long to finally win his first.
Yeah, as you said, even if it's not Ray, Joe's still going to win. I had Joe going over Ray to begin with. I don't see Joe dropping the title, so Samoa Joe.
So the tag team championships, both for SmackDown and for the women, will be on the line. So far, no Raw tag team championships. For the SmackDown for the men's, it's a four-way, and this is a WrestleMania special, right? Just throw a lot of tag teams in there together.
Hell yeah.
The Usos are the champions. They've been great champions. I'm picking them. That being said, I could really see Aleister Black and Ricochet winning because they've been the hot hand. The issue with that is, are they going to stay on SmackDown? Are they going to stay a tag team? And also, you've mentioned it before, having the titles is a big bargaining chip for WWE and for the Usos. Hey, we are pushing you. You just won a match at WrestleMania. You should stick around. I think as a result, I'm going with the Usos for those reasons.
I don't know if you, I guess clearly you didn't see this. Right before we did this, I saw on Twitter, supposedly the Usos have signed a new multi-year deal that they're staying with the company. So,
do you reward someone like that by letting them win at Mania?
Well, I was going to say now, after, and I gave you my pick beforehand, because my pick is Ricochet and Black. Do they reward them like, all right, you signed, you're winning this match? Or do you like, okay, we can book it however we want because now we have you for the
right.
To me, Black and Ricochet have been featured pretty strongly over the course of the last.
They got sound effects now during their entrances, Justin.
Right. What is a little crazy to me? They're in the NXT tag team title
on Friday. Yep.
So they're going to be on both. So that's interesting. I mean, to me, they still list them as NXT stars. I think we all know that this is probably their last NXT match, at TakeOver. I don't expect them to win. And so if my thinking was they lose Friday and then they redeem themselves by winning Sunday.
Yeah, I could see this absolutely being a 50-50 between those teams.
Kind of create some new stars. I mean, I don't view them really as a tag team because they've always been singles. But look, they needed tag teams. They put them together. Fine, whatever. Then have them feud with the Usos. That would, I think, lead to very entertaining matches.
And maybe take the spot of New Day, who could be doing their own thing.
Right. Have them do that for a couple months before they eventually split, and then you just move on. So I'm going with Ricochet and Black.
How about the women's? Another four-way. Beth Phoenix making her return. I don't really care. The Iconics, they're entertaining, but they're not great in the ring. Nia and Tamina, they're
The Iconics are entertaining me. I like their skit. Yeah, they're annoying on purpose. But like you said, they're not really good enough to hold the titles. Tamina and Nia Jax, my God. Every time I see them, I cringe. Nia Jax, maybe she's really good at making me just like completely want to change the channel. And Beth and Natalya, Beth came back just for a WrestleMania one-off. Natalya is so uninteresting, it's unbelievable. So Bayley, Sasha.
I agree, especially because they just won it. I don't see any reason to change it yet. Have a real, legitimate tag team that's really good.
They want to give Natalya a little, yay for her dad because he's going in the Hall of Fame.
But I don't want to see her and Beth as champions.
Well, it would be a very short-term thing, I believe. But other than that, I like that. But still, Sasha and Bayley.
Cruiserweight title, probably going to be a good match, probably in front of about 5,000 people. I will be one of those. Tony Nese challenging Buddy Murphy. Tony Nese isn't a big name, but he's awfully good. These guys, they deserve better, but ultimately it is what it is, or at least on WrestleMania. I think Buddy Murphy retains because I still think at some point a big name's going to go to 205 Live. I really do believe that. Maybe it's Johnny Gargano. That's been rumored. I thought Ricochet, although obviously that's not going to happen. I think they will have someone big take it from Buddy Murphy. As a result, he'll defend successfully against Tony Nese.
I'm going with Tony Nese just because Murphy's been champ for a while. It's WrestleMania, title switch.
Do you like the abs, the 8 abs?
Oh, yeah. Well, why not? Got abs. Murphy's been, like I said, Murphy's been champ for a while. Who knows? I don't even know. When I saw that, I said, I'm going to go Tony Nese because Murphy's had the belt for a long time, so why the hell not?
The Battle Royals are just awful. There's no reason to even have them, but they are having them. For the men, Braun Strowman, that's my pick because really he's the only person they've talked about being in it. Justin, it seems so dumb to have this, but Strowman?
It's bad. I'm going with Strowman. Because he's like, besides him and the SNL guys, I don't even know who the hell's in it.
Titus is in it.
Oh, well, great. Apollo, great. Yeah, whatever. And basically, is it really a battle royal? No, it's really Strowman and these two SNL guys and other people in the ring doing things. That's what this match is about. I could see one of the SNL guys winning because Strowman does something, they get one up on him, then he destroys them. And not that this battle royal means anything, but slap in the face to Andre the Giant if like an SNL actor, wins your battle royal. So I am going to go Strowman now.
And then for the women's, I'm probably giving them too much credit, but I think this is an opportunity to continue a story that could lead to long-term dividends. People were really ticked that Asuka lost to Charlotte, that she's not in a big match at WrestleMania. I think they'll play that up. I think they will continue to intentionally tick off the fans and get them even more behind Asuka. Hopefully, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, leading to a payoff that could, to some degree, not the same level, but to some degree, resemble what's happened with Becky Lynch, where the fans just naturally get behind this person who's been held down. So I'm picking anyone but Asuka. I had to pick someone, so I go with Ruby Riott because when I looked at the graphic that they had, she was the one standing next to Asuka in front.
Okay, I'm going with Asuka because I guess they can throw her a bone. And honestly, besides Asuka, I couldn't think of another person, another woman who might win this.
Well, the first name that came to my mind was Mandy Rose, but I'm like, well, they're not going to do that because they just had her and Asuka in a title match 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I would hope they throw a little bone, like, here, you can do this in front of 3,000 people and, have at it. And then, like you said, they're never going to build her up. She can't speak English. Vince doesn't really care for the, Japanese stars. So, but nobody cares about this match. And the trophy looks like a uterus. So, hey.
So those are all the matches. And we'll show our prediction graphic real quick after this. Elias musical performance, Alexa Bliss host. What else might happen? What are you looking forward to potentially that's not one of the matches that we've gone over?
Let's see. Alexa Bliss is going to look really damn good.
That's a given. That's 100%. 100% confidence.
100% she's going to look, amazing. 100% Elias will be interrupted by somebody. He will be made to look a fool. By who? It could be anyone's speculation. There's speculation it's Cena, which I don't want to see because we've seen him in Cena feud already. Give me someone a little different. We've heard maybe The Undertaker. I don't know. Maybe it's The Rock. I don't know. Somebody is going to interrupt him. Somebody's going to get, the best of him. The question is, do we get a couple segments of him doing his thing before he gets interrupted, or does he get interrupted, right off the bat?
If it leads to a match between him and Cena, even if it's 5 minutes, I personally will love that. If it's him and The Rock, that's the best case scenario. I don't have my hopes up for The Rock. I think Cena's an option. I just hope it's not something like the Honky Tonk Man who's going into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that would be, the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time.
Let's run down this graphic, and we've already mentioned all these. You can see Justin and I are on the same page for the big 3 matches. We differ on Triple H and Batista. I'm going with the Animal. He picks the game. Again, we agree on a lot of them, all the way down to the SmackDown tag titles, and we said that one's a really tough one to pick. We also disagree on the Cruiserweight title with him picking a new champion in Tony Nese. I'm saying Buddy Murphy, and then the Women's Battle Royal that's really irrelevant. It's either Asuka or someone else. Before we put a bow on this one, Justin, NXT TakeOver, you're excited about that. In about a minute or less, what's really going to have your eyes' attention?
Everything. NXT TakeOvers, I'm interested in.
5 title matches.
Always. They all deliver. There's nothing that really is uninteresting. I expect a couple of title changes. We know we're going to see a new NXT champion. We're guaranteed that. You're going to be in attendance. So, hopefully we get some good feedback on the Twitter. Hopefully, when you're out there this week and you get some interviews.
Maybe I can get Walter to chop me. That would be the end of the podcast, but.
I think people would probably be okay with that.
Lastly, for WrestleMania, you're not too happy with some of the build. What are your overall expectations? If you were to grade this one before it happens, what grade are you putting on what WrestleMania 35 will ultimately be?
It's going to be, I do think these matches will be solid. We've seen cards on pay-per-views where we're like, well, this stinks, but the matches deliver. I think these guys are professionals. They're going to go out and deliver. But the build-up and everything, I think when it's all said and done, this WrestleMania will fall in the bottom half of WrestleManias. I really, it's going to be remembered for the first women's main event.
Right.
And that's pretty much what's probably going to be remembered for. And other than that, it's probably just going to be a bunch of forgetful things. Maybe if Kofi wins, that's going to be, meaningful, but maybe forgotten over time. So we'll see.
If I were to put a letter grade on it, Justin, I will take a page out of the Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston storyline and say it's a B+. I actually do think the bigger matches are all pretty good. They have to get the winners right. For the big matches, they have to get the winners right. That will completely determine if this is a success or a failure.
I'll say right now it's a C-, but it could be as high as a B. So. All
right. Again, I will be there along with my roommate John. We're going to hopefully have a great time on Friday and Sunday between NXT TakeOver and WrestleMania. We'll be back next week to recap everything that went down over the 3 days event. For my broadcast colleague Justin Lowery, this is Sean Meyers signing off. Check us out on Twitter, 5-Star Pod Wrestle. We also have an Instagram page that I'm sure you could easily find, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hopefully we'll have a lot of good stuff from this weekend and beyond. But that's going to do it. We will hopefully see you after WrestleMania 35 next week right here on the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling.